Hakeem with AutoFix Pals. Today we have a 2018 Nissan Frontier with a customer complaint of intermittent heat. Yes, I know we are in the hottest part of the summer right now. However, this vehicle was diagnosed and repaired sometime at the beginning of the spring, so no, the customer is not a lunatic. Now, as always, the first thing we need to do is verify the customer's complaint. In the past, this vehicle has been here on 2 other occasions. We could not duplicate the customer's concern. We told the customer to bring the car back the moment it started acting up again. And the customer did bring it back the moment it started acting up, so we verified the customer's complaint. Now, the first thing I did was open the hood and check and see if the heater hoses were hot. No, actually, the first thing I did was make sure that the customer had the temperature selector selected on the heat position. And then I opened the hood, checked the heater hoses, made sure that the inlet heater hose was hot and the outlet heater hose was hot as well. This verified coolant flow across the heater core. So with good coolant flow across the heater core, this leads me to believe that we have an issue with the heater box or the control head itself. Verify, isolate, and pinpoint. Now that we have the problem isolated to either the heater box, binding door, faulty door actuator, or an issue with the control head, we can pull up a wiring diagram and see if we have a consistent control over the mixed door actuator and see if the mixed door position sensor shows a smooth gradual change as it should. So the best tool for this job, in my opinion, is the scope. Now let's get to it.
Alright, so we are going to take this connector apart for the HVAC control unit because the wires we need to test is on this plug right here. We already took this panel off and unbolted this control head from the back, but we're not going to get into that. This is just the purpose of diagnosing this HVAC control unit.
Sadly, I did not take the key out of the ignition when I filmed this entire segment, so instead of having you guys hear this annoying sound throughout the entire duration of the video, it's best that I just do a voiceover and explain what we have going on. So for the most part, removing the connector is pretty easy. You just press the little button in front of the gray release lever and flip the release lever over as seen in the video demonstration. Next, we have to disassemble the connector partially to gain access to what we need in order to backprobe our mixed door actuator output pins and mixed door position sensor input pins. To do this, you have to lift up on the little release tab on the side of the connector and slide it forward. I would like to think that there is a good reason for Nissan overcomplicating this connector, but I can't think of any myself. So please feel free to leave your comments about this below.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
With the connector disassembled, we need to make sure we plug it in correctly because it is no longer self-aligning with the shell removed. Just be sure to take caution when plugging the connector in, as you do not want to plug it in backwards or bend any pins in the back of the HVAC control head. The mixed door actuator on this vehicle and many other vehicles uses an electric motor and a position sensor that is similar to what you will find on a throttle body or a fuel level sensor. It's basically a variable resistor which will allow a voltage anywhere from 0 to 5 volts to pass back into the input of the HVAC control head or control module, depending on whatever the manufacturer wants to call it today. And the module will then determine when to stop sending power to the mixed door control motor. The mixed door control motor itself, mind you this is all one unit, will be controlled by the module telling it to go forward or reverse by reversing the polarity of the power supply to the motor.
Brown and gray wires is the control to the motor. For the temperature select door, the mixed door motor, the brown and gray. There's a motor, there's an actuator assembly. There's a motor in there and there's a variable resistor which tells this computer here where the blend door is actually located. You'll be able to tell that from the wiring diagram because it's just a needle going across the resistor like that and 3 wires. Or is it 2? I think it's 3 wires. Anyway, yes, it's 3 wires. So we're going to check here. We're going to hook our scope up there, channel A, and then we're going to hook our other lead up to the resistor, the position sensor for that blend door. And we'll see if the position is changing when the motor is being commanded. And that'll tell us if the actuator is actually moving, but the door inside the heater box is not moving. Because if the door in the heater box is not moving, but our actuator is moving and the position sensor is moving, then that means our heater box is no good, or the tip of our actuator is stripped, which is probably because the heater box is no good. So let me get the scope hooked up and we'll pause the video right now for a second.
This could also mean that we have an actuator that is internally broken, such as a stripped worm gear or motor shaft. The only way that I can be 100% certain on which is at fault is to get access to the actuator and test it visually. And unfortunately, getting access to the motor to check it visually is not the easiest task to do because it is located in the center top of the heater box, which is pretty much behind the dashboard, at the center, at the top, right behind everything. So the dashboard would have to physically come out to visually check that motor and actuator in the heater box. The test that we are conducting with the scope gives me justification for removing the dashboard and determining if the problem is in the mixed door actuator or the heater box assembly. The two leads that you see back probed in the connector are for both sides of the mixed door actuator motor on channel 1, the yellow trace. I also have channel 2 connected to the mixed door position sensor. This right here is where I learned one of the limitations of the mic sit tablet oscilloscope, and I didn't realize it until the next day. Basically, the reason you see the position sensor on the blue trace provide smooth gradual change as you would expect when switching from hot to cold is because the mic sit tablet oscilloscope does not have a floating ground. Each channel shares the same ground internally, so when going from hot to cold, the control head is providing ground to the ground side of the channel 1. But switching from cold to hot, the motor in the mixed door actuator is having the polarity reverse, which is sending positive charge into the ground side of the scope's ground lead, causing the scope to do some funky stuff and provide some less than ideal results. However, at the end of the mixed door actuator's command, we can see the results on the scope showing us what we were looking for. Well, not exactly, because the temperature selection process is operating as it should at the moment, and we are trying to capture the process when it is misbehaving. So looking at the scope, we can see the yellow trace, our actuator motor being commanded on with full source voltage. There's a slight pause in the process for a little less than a second, which is probably me stopping the rotation of the temperature knob momentarily. Now at the same time of that pause on the blue trace, which is the position sensor, you can see that the door did move, or at least the position sensor moved inside the actuator as indicated by the slightly elevated voltage. Now by the end of this whole performance, you can see that the position sensor on the blue trace has shifted to what I believe is full swing at 4.1 volts. So the first half of this video was basically showing what we should be seeing on a normally operating mixed door actuator motor and sensor. We would also be able to see the gradual movement of the sensor from both hot to cold and cold to hot if I were performing this test with the picoscope or some other scope with a floating independent ground. We can also do this test on one channel at a time, or even use a voltmeter to capture voltage change in the position sensor or lack of a voltage change in a position sensor with a malfunctioning system. Now that the truck has been sitting overnight, we are able to see what we hope to see during the first half of our testing. A mixed door actuator that is being commanded to move and is not moving. Again, the blue trace is a position sensor, and you can now clearly see that the position sensor is not moving when the motor is sent power to move the door, which indicates a binding mixed door or some type of internal fault in the actuator assembly. And again, the dash has to come out to do either repair. Unfortunately, I was not able to film the process of me removing and installing the new heater box. But let's back up for a second. I should have led with the fact that this vehicle is under warranty, and a heater box assembly comes with all the mix and mold door actuators all assembled and ready to bolt in. So before I pulled the dash out, a heater box assembly was ordered. Especially since Nissan was paying for it all and there was no need to delay the repair any longer waiting for parts. Not to mention the fact that it is very, very rare for an HVAC actuator to fail on a newer Nissan. Now, I've changed many heater boxes for binding doors or some other type of internal failure, but I can't remember the last time that there was an actuator failure that wasn't caused by the heater box. Was I correct in my assumption? Yes, I was. When I removed the heater box, I took the mixed door actuator off and I could feel the mixed door binding when I moved it by hand. What we are looking at right now is a properly working mixed door and mixed door actuator position sensor. That is indicating a change in position when there is a change in position. We have smooth and gradual movement as we should. Now that's also because I have only one channel connected on my scope. But the fact that we have consistent and reliable door movement confirms that we do have a fix.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
You see the drip, yeah, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Ooh, I've been on the flex since flex on. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no